Hello and welcome to the Gorilla Guide webinar to enabling VDI, Desktop as a Service, and EUC environments. On today's event, you'll hear from experts at Workspot and Pure Storage. The Gorilla Guide Webisode is brought to you by Actual Tech Media. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'll be serving as your moderator. Before we get started, there's just a few things that you should know about the Gorilla Guide Webisode. We've got some awesome prizes. I'll be talking about those here in just a moment, as well as the eligibility requirements. We also want this to be an educational event. We encourage your questions, and we'll be doing a dedicated Q&A at the end of the webisode. I'll also have some poll questions for you during the event, and we appreciate your participation on those. We want this to be a social event. I'll talk about the hashtag for the event, which, by the way, is Gorilla Guide over on Twitter, here in just a moment, as well as other social details, and we appreciate your participation in sharing all the great things that you've learned here on the webisode. And then finally, in the Handouts tab, you'll find a couple of resources I encourage you to check out to learn more about the Pure Storage and Workspot solutions. The prizes for today are 3 Amazon $100 gift cards. You must be live in attendance to qualify. I'll be announcing the prize winner of these 3 gift cards at the end of the event. All prize winners must be able to submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media. We'll reach out to the prize winners via email after the event. Full prize terms and conditions can be found in the Handouts tab. If you're not familiar with the Gorilla Guide Book Club, you can go to gorilla.guide or check out the link in the Handouts tab. It's there that you can download full educational IT ebooks. These are a fun read, and they're on a variety of enterprise IT topics. And yes, they are all completely free. I encourage you to check those out at gorilla.guide. We've partnered with the Gorilla Guide Book Club to make donations to the selected charities you see here on the screen. If you win a prize today and you'd like to make a donation to a selected charity, we would love to help you do that. I also encourage you to socialize the event over on Twitter. The hashtag is Gorilla Guide. You can follow Actual Tech Media on Twitter and me as well, David M. Davis. I also encourage you to subscribe to all the Actual Tech Media channels on YouTube, Facebook, and the 10 on Tech podcast over in the iTunes Store. Follow Actual Tech Media on LinkedIn as well. You'll find links to all of those social channels on the top right-hand side of your audience console. Now, before we get started with today's topic, I want to talk briefly about why enabling VDI, Desktop as a Service, and EUC is so important today. We're now in a new remote work reality. For many companies, working from home was never really in the cards. It wasn't in the plan, but I guarantee you it is now. Companies have been forced to try to figure out remote work, and many are still doing it in a break-fix mode, in a band-aided configuration. And while they might not have been considering VDI or Desktop as a Service in the past, they might not have been high priority, I guarantee you they are now. And if they aren't, they should be. VDI, Desktop as a Service, and EUC solutions are perfect when it comes to enabling remote work and doing it securely. Thankfully, it's a good time to be implementing these technologies because new advancements in these types of solutions have made it easier than ever before in history. So why VDI? Well, for us in IT, it gives us the centralized control that we need. You're not going to get that with a remote VPN solution and everyone just using their own desktop. VDI provides the security that we need. We know that ransomware is plaguing companies of all sizes, and remote desktops and edge locations are especially vulnerable. VDI provides us the security controls that we need to protect ourselves from ransomware. It also keeps our data all in one place and as secure as possible. It provides full support for all remote workers, including those who are bringing their own desktop. So compared to the alternatives, VDI is the easiest way to make work from home not only possible, but also secure, manageable, and functional. Thankfully, on the Gorilla Guide webisode today, you'll learn about some of the most innovative VDI solutions available to you today. You'll learn how these solutions can help you to enable VDI and Desktop as a Service easier than ever before. And with that, I'm excited to introduce you to our first expert presenter on the Gorilla Guide webisode today. Welcome Mr. Brad Peterson, Vice President at Workspot. Brad, take it away.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone from around the world, wherever you're coming in from today. I am Brad Peterson from Workspot, and I am here to talk about how to harness the public cloud for VDI, DaaS, and EUC environments. Today, I'm going to talk about the evolution of VDI to DaaS and into the cloud and beyond. And in that, I like to start off my presentations with the punchline first. So I'm going to rotate over to that and talk to you guys about cloud desktops. This is ultimately where we're going to end up in this discussion. So the notion of the virtual desktop being completely in the cloud. All right, and imagine it's in a world where it's available to you anywhere in the world, and through a single pane of glass, you can actually launch, provision, hand that desktop out to your user. It could be just a CPU desktop or even a GPU accelerated desktop for users wherever they are in the world, depending on what their use case is and what applications they're using. So imagine, sort of on demand, instantly launching that desktop, putting those folks to work and have them all tightly coupled together on a super high speed public cloud backbone. I've been in this industry for about 15 years, so I've been through a lot of the evolution, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to go back in time and talk about that. Now imagine the old world of VDI. Well, what does VDI stand for? Virtual Desktop Infrastructure. Well, it's a big I in there. There's a lot of infrastructure. You used to have to build all this on site, on-prem in your data center. And to do that, you had to spend a lot of money, take all that software, all that hardware, and make it all work. Now that is a do-it-yourself project. So as you can see from the slide here, there was a lot of that in the world: DIY, VDI, and on-prem. And the evolution here now is rolling that into the cloud to get all the way over to the right, which is what we have today at Workspot, which is cloud native desktop as a service. Vastly different. No upfront charge, not a lot of complex software. You just provision that desktop in that part of the world for that employee or contractor to consume at a flat fixed fee. It's kind of crazy, the evolution there. So you can see there's a multi-cloud desktop control panel that's managing this whole thing. It's allowing you to provision these resources and monitor and manage them all from one single space globally. Now this connects into various different public clouds everywhere in the world. And with that, basically what you do is you take that definition of a desktop that user needs for that use case and launch it in that region and assign it to them. Now you tie this into your own Active Directory, your own authentication system, even using multi-factor authentication, and it's safe and secure and it's fast because it's running in the cloud. So, well, that's what we do at Workspot. We call it the Enterprise Desktop Cloud, the modern way to work. Now, where are we going next? So we're comparing against VDI, first of all, okay? VDI, Virtual Desktop Infrastructure, as I said before, it's that huge stack of complexity that you had to actually pay for in advance and then cobble together and support yourself. That's on the left side of the screen. Now on the right side is Workspot. We recreated and redesigned and re-architected that whole space from scratch as a cloud native service that's now globally available in the world. So that's the idea there. Now, what happens when you do that is, you can see this diagram, you're not stuck in one single environment in one on-prem data center, and people from around the world have to connect to it to get to their virtual desktop. Now, this is very different. As we said before, Workspot manages and provisions and monitors this whole thing, and it allows you to provision these desktops anywhere on the public clouds that you can see here. We provide an abstraction layer so that you can drop in the desktop or the GPU accelerated desktop, which would be a workstation, anywhere that you want it in the world. Okay, drop it in for that user to consume. Well, take a look at this diagram here. Now, the person down below is you in the little bubble, and above that is the desktop in the cloud. Well, when the desktop runs in the cloud, one of the first things you want to do is open a browser and do a network speed test. And you're going to see you got like 1 millisecond delay latency, and then all of a sudden you got 2 gigabit bandwidth down and maybe 2 or 3 or even sometimes 4 gigabit bandwidth up. So anytime you want to move files, big files back and forth, whether it's video files or a CAD CAM file, you just have instant and super fast access to all the other SaaS services that are in the world. The only thing that's coming down to you wherever you are in the world, at home, on the road, at a customer site, or at the office, is just the compressed pixels that are coming down to you. And of course, your mouse movements and keystrokes are going back up to the desktop. We put the desktop in the region closest to the user to minimize the latency that user experiences. So you have a minimal latency into the desktop to get your work. And of course, once you're up there, you get super high speed access to the rest of the internet. And if you have other folks in other countries that are also in your organization, those will be logically connected, and you'll be using that high speed gigabit backplane provided by the public cloud providers when you're communicating inside your company. Much faster and far less expensive than MPLS lines and various other things like that. Now, this is the architecture. If you look at the diagram in the far lower right-hand corner, what you end up seeing is you're the customer. That's your data center. And it's connected up into a cloud subscription already. There might already be one, and that's that white one above it, right? And up there, you might put authentication servers, and you might put server workloads and data storage and things like that. And that's all great up there. And by the way, when you do that, you do have a connection into that public cloud with an administrative UI, and then the meter is running on that. But on the blue side of the subscription, that's where Workspot drops in all of our desktops and our workstations. And that's how we deliver those to you at a flat fixed fee inside that subscription that's tightly coupled into your authentication and your servers and your data and all of that. From there, what happens is you manage it through the user interface that is associated with Workspot. Single pane of glass to manage everything globally around the world. It's beautiful. And monitoring all that stuff, it all gets blended all right together. And then your users, whether they are in the data center or corporate office, or whether they're home or customer side or anywhere in the world, they connect directly in to hit their desktop. So now what I want to do is just pop into a quick demo and show you what this looks and feels like. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we launch the Workspot client. When we launch the client, you can see it's sitting right here. We're going to go ahead and authenticate into that. By the way, the first time I'd use my credentials, but after that I get to store a secret passcode and it gets me in even faster. Then I can see all my different workstations and desktops that I have available, and if I click on one, it's going to connect to it. So here, this is going to connect to a workstation as I'm in California into the western region of the world, of the United States, and bam, I'm in. So from here, I'm going to go straight into an application called Revit. It's a CAD application, and it just shows you, if you're just really working on large files and super complex drawings and that, you have tremendous response time here. So I can maneuver this around, and I can zoom inside these buildings here and check out the architecture, kind of zoom out, rotate around the building, and the response time is unbelievable. It is just so responsive. As an engineer, you would think you're actually working on this on a local device, but you're not. You're on whatever device you have at home, and you're connected into a powerful workstation in the cloud that has access, high-speed access to big files and the internet as well. So you can pull down big projects and you can save them and push them back up as well. So that's one example. But I might also be working in a financial application. So I could pop into a financial application and take a look at some curves that I've got going up here. Maybe I want to draw in some new ones and do some analysis on some financial activity throughout the day. And that's cool. All my trading activity, whatever it might be, it would be right here. Moving super fast. And of course, if I want to pop into PowerPoint or any of the Office applications, they're going to be running up here, and they're going to all be quite quick as well. So, let's test this thing even more. I could go into Google Earth and flip around the world and go and find, check on the Eiffel Tower, see how it's doing today. So, these things would take graphics acceleration. So if that is your use case and that is what you need, then fine. You configure your desktop or your workstation to do exactly that, and you get exactly the power that you might need to accomplish your tasks and your goals. Now, when I'm all done with this, you can see all I have to do is minimize this, and away I go. So one other thing I'll open up here is a browser to show you, you can browse in here and check out our website if you like. You can also go and run YouTube videos on here, and you'll see great performance. But let's take another look at the speed test, the network speed test. Let's see what happens if I run this. Now remember, this is up in the cloud, okay? So it's up in the fast zone. You can see it's got like 0 millisecond ping time. It's like instantaneous ping. I've seen one before, I hadn't seen 0. And so now it's got about 2 gigabits of download speed. You can see right there, cranking through that. And we go on to upload speed, and we're seeing, let's see, it's usually even more here with upload. Yeah, look at that, 2.2 gigabits up. So you are able to transfer data, in and out of here faster than ever before. You can open up any other SaaS application you want to and get to it instantly. All right. So that's one of the additional beauties of running your desktop in the cloud. Now, of course, when I bring this little tab down here and I hover over the connection, I can see that I've got 151.9 megabit per second connection in where I'm living here, and that's a 17 millisecond latency. So that's pretty cool. Well, when you're all done, all you have to do is disconnect and close out your client, and that is that. Everything is still running in the cloud. Back when you go to it next time, it'll still be there, and you can pick it up right where you left off. If you have any additional questions, you can also send me an email off to this very simple address here, brad@ workspot.com. All right. Well, thank you, one and all. Hope you reach out to me, and I'm happy to connect. Thank you.
All right, that was an awesome demo. Thank you so much, Brad. I really enjoyed that. It's just amazing how far VDI has come. I remember initially VDI, the use case to avoid were these graphical applications like CAD. Now those are the premier kind of demos of how to or how powerful VDI and desktop as a service is. So thanks so much for the excellent presentation and the excellent demo. Very cool to see what you guys are doing there at Workspot. I want to call everyone's attention to the poll that's on the screen. It says, what additional information would you like about the Workspot solution? And I'll leave that up while I route through some of these questions over to Brad at the Workspot team. So, thank you for all the excellent hellos and good morning messages. James said that the speed of Google Earth there is impressive. It looks faster than on my local machine, and I totally agree. I think I need one of these desktops in the cloud just for myself. So thank you to Kevin for the comments. Happy Friday to you as well. Hello to Venkata-san from Texas. Love the great state of Texas. So thank you, everyone, for being on. Like I said, there's some great questions in here about the Workspot solution, and I'm routing these over to Brad to respond to electronically. I'll leave the poll question up here for just a few more moments, and then I'll introduce you to our next presenter. All right, thank you to everyone who responded to the poll question there. I do appreciate that. We're about to move on. If you haven't got your response registered yet, I would appreciate it if you could do that now, because we're about to move on to our next presenter. Excellent. Thank you for all those responses. We do appreciate it. I know the Workspot team does as well. It's now time for our next presenter on today's Gorilla Guide Webisode. I'm excited to introduce Mr. David Stamen, Field Solutions Architect at Pure Storage. David, it's great to have you on. I'll hand it off to you.
Welcome to this webinar on enabling VDI on Pure Storage. My name is David Stamen, a Field Solutions Architect. I've been here at Pure now for about 15 months, and I focus on our virtualization and our cloud solutions. Before coming to Pure, I was a technical marketing architect at VMware focused on vSphere Lifecycle, as well as vSphere Tanzu. And then before that, I was a very happy Pure customer. So I thought, why not come work here? I'm also designated as a VMware vExpert, as well as a VMware code coach. You can find me on social media, such as Twitter and LinkedIn. You can find some Pure and VMware related blogs at davidstamen.com. And you can also find some sample scripts up on GitHub. To begin, the flash array is our all-flash array for Pure Storage, and it truly is ideal storage for VMware workloads. It was really designed to eliminate the complexities and trade-offs that exist with other SAN arrays and things such as HCI. And so we are proven 6 nines of uptime. We can have 100% performance through failure and maintenance with our dual controller architecture that each controller can maintain 100% of the load. All of our data is encrypted at rest, and we have global data reduction. When it comes to QoS, we have always on QoS, but you can also manually configure limits on ones if you wish. All of our software updates are cloud delivered and done by our support team, so you don't have to worry about it as a vSphere admin. All of our best practices are out of the box, so we are design partner with VMware, and so we make sure that all of our best practices and all of our recommended settings are native in the hypervisor. So we tend to think as best practices as bugs. Within the array, we have native VASA provider as well as VAI services, and we also have no volume IOP limits. It's that of the array. And we support fiber channel, iSCSI, as well as NVMe. And so really when it comes down to a flash array, it is very simple to get started. It's very simple to configure, very simple to provision. You don't have to do any type of tuning. To create an object, right, all you have to do is create a host, register the IQNs or the WWNs, create a volume, and connect them together. It really is that simple. When it comes to provisioning storage, you don't have to make some complicated decisions. You don't have to worry about RAID or storage pool or QDEPs or block sizes. Things like encryption, compression, and deduplication, they're just always on the flash array, right? A lot of these are either controlled by our Purity operating system, or they simply don't exist. Creating a volume is very simple. All you have to do is provide it a name and give it a size, right? You can make the volumes as small or as large as you want. On the flash array, a volume does not have an individual performance limit. The performance is that of the array itself. And so you don't need to worry about provisioning a whole lot of small data stores just for better VDI performance. You can create one large data store and throw everything on there. On the Pure Storage flash array, separate everything based off business needs, not performance. Maybe you have some data stores that are for executives and you need them to be snapshotted every 15 minutes. Maybe you have some linked clones that you don't have to worry about taking any snapshots, or maybe there's some that you need to be replicated. Carve that up based off those business needs, not based off the performance requirements. And through our innovation, we can deliver our differentiation. And so our all-flash performance and non-disruptive operations really gives your end users the best experience. We have an industry-leading data reduction, and so that can lower your storage costs and TCO for VDI. Throughout our customer base, we have over 10 to 1 data reduction. And really, when it comes to simplicity, I've never managed an easier array. We have integrations and automation across so many applications, whether it's Ansible, PowerShell, native REST API, Python, or even our vSphere client plugin. It really is so easy. From a seamless scalability and resilience, right? We have our Evergreen subscription, which allows you to never have to worry about buying storage twice. So you can easily grow from a pilot, and maybe you start with a small array. Well, you can do non-disruptive upgrades from one capacity to another or one generation to another. And so you're easily able to grow from a pilot to thousands of users for your VDI environment, because you never know what's going to happen, especially in this remote workforce. When it comes to configuration and flexibility, you have the choice of either using persistent or non-persistent desktops. You'll still have the exact same performance and user experience, and both of them will consume the exact same disk space after deduplication, compression, and then provisioning. You also don't have to worry about buying an array just for VDI. You can commingle your VDI and other workloads together and not have to worry about any type of performance contention. And you get gains from deduplication across workloads. You can also reduce your administration cost and complexity. Because like I said, the array is very simple to install and configure. You don't have to worry about troubleshooting performance. But if you do, we have a lot of tools that can help you, which I'll talk about. Throughout all of our phone home data, we can see many customers are averaging over a 10 to 1 data reduction, and sometimes even more. And with our Pure One, you can monitor it from anywhere, even a mobile device. When it comes to meeting performance requirements, we have a lot of considerations when we size an array. And the goal is to have consistent less than 1 millisecond performance. So whether or not you have that morning boot storm where you have hundreds of thousands of IOPS at the ready, right? You have a login storm where there's a lot of reads. You have predictable user experience throughout this whole time. And also you have the ability to have virus scanning and patching composing in the evening with also not impacting any of those workloads. And so with the flash array, you don't have to worry about architecting it for any one of these things. We can withstand all of them at less than 1 milliseconds performance for the deployments and the currently running workloads. We can also make VDI administration faster. With VAI and all of the native services, we can do very rapid operations. And so when you need to provision a desktop from a template, even a full clone, it can take 5 seconds instead of 3 minutes with traditional storage. When it comes to booting, right, we can also offload that to the array. So we can boot 100 desktops in less than a minute. When it comes to doing a storage remotion of a VM within the array, well, we're not moving any data. We're just moving the metadata, so 5 seconds. And the time it takes to recompose desktop VMs is very quick. With all of these operations, whether or not you're provisioning 50 gigs or 50 terabytes, it's going to take the exact same amount of time to clone on the back end. And we can really reduce your costs when it comes to storage efficiencies. Because of our industry-leading data reduction, our customer base averages over 10 to 1 with VDI, and maybe even more. And so when we size an array, we'll guarantee it. And so you also have the ability to commingle workloads. So maybe if you're running test dev or VDI, you're getting a 9 to 1 or greater workloads. When it comes to database and applications or virtual infrastructure, maybe you'll see 2 to 1 to 8 to 1. It really varies, sometimes more, sometimes less. A really great thing you can do with the Pure Storage Flash Array and Pure One is simulations. And so this was very useful for customers when COVID first hit and they had to adopt a new workforce. They had the ability to do workload simulation and see what would it actually look like if I had to run an extra 1,000 desktops on my environment? Do I have the capacity? Do I have the performance? You can simulate that without having to do anything on the array itself. And not only can you look at a single array, but you can also look at a group of arrays to see if you can spread across that workload. Well, what happens if it doesn't fit? Well, you can do a hardware simulation. What happens if I need to upgrade to the next generation, or do I need to add another array? What does this workload actually look like? And it's very simple in just a few clicks. Security is also very important when it comes to VDI. And so we're always encrypting all the time. We have purity-based encryption as well as at-rest data encryption, and it doesn't impact performance. All of it is done in line with no performance penalty. And we have zero key management. There's no external tool to have to worry about. It's all built into our Purity operating system. When it comes to pre-built solutions, we have one called the Flash Stack. It is a converged infrastructure built with Pure Storage and Cisco, and it's designed, implemented, and supported by Pure partners. It's really flexible design with best-of-breed components, and we can support many items. We have a whole lot of Cisco validated designs. We have, I think, over 35 joint ones. And so these solutions are not only available for VMware Horizon View and Citrix Zen Desktop for your VDI environments, but we also have pre-built solutions for Oracle, SQL Exchange, SAP, and Epic, and many, many more. When we think about these for VDI, sometimes we don't have time to wait around for both compute and storage. And so we've actually worked with Cisco to create some VDI quick ship bundles. Whether or not you need 1,000, 2,500, or 5,000 desktops, each one has a set of compute and a set of storage that is built for performance and capacity, as well as all of that built in. And so we can see some of those here. The 1,000 desktop starts with our X10 model, which is our lower one, and the 5,000 will scale up all the way to our X50. And then again, if you need to go larger, we also have an X70 as well as an X90. But these bundles give you the ability to quickly ship both compute and storage rapidly for you to use in your environment. When it comes to identifying any storage issues, we'll use Pure One VM Analytics. We take a collector and collect information from your vSphere environment, and we also correlate it with our volume and array information in Pure One. And it really allows you to identify issues very rapidly. You get full visibility of latency, bandwidth, and IOPS, a virtual to physical topology map, as well as a visual depiction of performance. And it works with VMFS, RDMs, vVols, vSAN, as well as NFS. And there's also capacity metrics in the latest version. If you wish to learn more of how we integrate with VMware solutions, check out our VMware platform guide on our support site. And if you wish to learn more of how we integrate with VDI-based solutions, feel free to email us at vmware@purestorage.com or scan this QR code to visit our VDI solutions guide. Thank you for joining us. My name was David Stamen.
All right. Thanks so much, David. I really appreciate that. Great presentation. I appreciate your email address up there on the screen as well, vmware@purestorage.com for more information, or the Scan Me QR code there on the screen. Very cool to see. I'm going to bring up the poll question now for everyone out there. I want to call your attention to this question. What additional information would you like about the Pure Storage solution that you just learned about there from David? We appreciate your feedback on that. I know the Pure Storage team and David do as well. So I'll leave this up for a few moments, and then we're going to kick off our Q&A discussion. Thanks for the comment there from Pablo. Pablo said we currently have Pure Storage in our data centers and they provide excellent performance. Love to hear that. David out there said great content. Thank you. Venkatasan said great presentation. Thank you for that. We appreciate all your feedback. And of course, if you have questions about the Pure Storage solution for David, you can post them there in the questions panel, and I'll be routing those over to David and queuing those up for our Q&A. So now's a good time to get your questions in for either Workspot or Pure Storage for the Q&A session that's about to start here in just a few moments. And then don't forget, after the Q&A session, I'll be announcing the winner of winners of our 3 Amazon $100 gift cards. All right, thank you for all the feedback there in the poll. I'll leave it up for one more moment, and then we'll kick off the Q&A. All right, thank you for all the poll responses there. We do appreciate that. It's now time to move on to our Q&A panel discussion. And now I'm excited to be joined by our panel of experts. Welcome Mr. Brad Peterson from Workspot and Mr. David Stamen from Pure Storage. So let's kick off the Q&A. We've got a lot of great questions coming in from the audience. The first one is for you, Brad. They're asking, what level of cloud expertise do I need to use Workspot?
Well, you don't have to be a cloud expert. I mean, the whole point of Workspot is to give you this abstraction layer above the public clouds so that you don't have to know all the details underneath. That's one of the beauties of it. It's enterprise class cloud desktops, and it's a turnkey service, and it allows you to use the browser-based administrative experience of Workspot and just click on different VM templates and launch them in different regions of the world and provide those via the security that's tied into your authentication and your group policies, right? So that you can provision those desktops and you can monitor and manage them, and all at a flat fixed fee. Now, part of this will be the fact that you do want an instance in the public cloud where you put in your authentication services, and you might put in some data in there as well, and also maybe some server workloads too. That's on your side. Now, you'll have a public cloud administrative UI and a bill, a monthly bill from those folks on that. But on the other side of this, tightly coupled together, this side is a subscription where Workspot drops in the virtual machines that are the desktops and the workstations. And all the GPU, CPU, network, and storage associated with that is all inside there. And that has an abstraction layer. So you just see the Workspot admin UI to manage that, and the Workspot flat fixed fee too. So you don't have to worry about these VMs running nights and weekends and so forth. It's a flat fixed fee. All right. So that is essentially a combination of a little bit of access to the full public cloud and an abstraction layer to make this massively simple and scale globally for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad, for clarifying that. Let's see, next question is for you, David. They're asking, does Pure Storage support vSphere 7?
And the answer is yes. So we actually work very closely with VMware to make sure that we have day zero support. And so not only do we support it, but we have some best practices that have inherited some of the features from vSphere 7, such as a latency-based round-robin vSphere policy.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I see more companies adopting vSphere 7, so I'm sure they appreciate your support of it. Let's see, moving on back to you, Brad. What about endpoint device support? What endpoints do you all support at Workspot?
Well, this is an important question because there's a lot of folks working from home, and they might even be using BYOD right now. Bring your own device. So what devices do we support? Well, we have a native client that runs on Windows OS, Mac OS, iOS, and Android. So for any of those devices, you would download the executable Workspot client and run it on there. Now that's great because it supports multi-monitors and high-speed protocols and all that sort of thing. So the experience is great and rich. Now, beyond that, if there's another device that you can install something on, or it's not yours, we support HTML5 too. So maybe it's a Chromebook or another device you just can't install the client on. So you can extend your reach on all those platforms as well. And we support thin clients too. So a thin client can establish this wonderful connection to this virtual machine in the cloud, these cloud desktops, and paint it on their display and be very interactive. And you can use that whether it's in an office or even in a remote setting if configured correctly. All right? Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. I know a lot of companies will appreciate such a wide breadth of devices being supported by Workspot. Next question back to you, David. What about reference architectures when it comes to implementing virtual desktops? What is supported with Pure Storage?
And so we work closely with all the ones revolving around the vSphere validated designs and VMware Cloud Foundation, but we also work closely with Cisco for the Cisco validated designs as well. And so we actually have two recent ones with Horizon with vSphere 7.
Thanks, David. I know those reference architectures are very important when implementing any new virtual desktop infrastructure. Moving back to you, Brad, what's the implementation like? If I were to get started with Workspot and I wanted to roll it out to a group of users, what's the experience like there?
Well, our initial deployment experience happens early with our customers. We can provide them a desktop in the cloud in whatever region of the world they're running, so they can just jump in and load their apps and put their data in there and feel how it feels. What's the response time, right? What's my latency? How are my apps performing? How is data access times, uploads, downloads, and that? You can feel that right there on a generic virtual machine. Beyond that, some customers say, well, that's cool, but tie it now into my workspace, right? Into my workplace, right? And so with that, we would network them together, tie it into that authentication, maybe Active Directory, and then have, policies, group policies associated with desktops and applications and various things like that. So now that feels like home. That is your company and your environment running in the cloud with your apps and your projects and your data. And so that's the real test and the real feel. And then you can launch the project. You can get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people all launched in a region or two or three. Keep it to whatever scale makes most sense for you. And when you're comfortable with that thing running and launched, and you feel that performance, and you feel how it feels for a subscription flat fixed fee, then you're going to know how to expand. You'll know how to add more users to that original use case. And then you'll find a whole bunch of new use cases within your organization that Workspot would be ideal for as well. So a graceful initiation and an initial deployment, and then growing into it being useful for all sorts of use cases within your organization.
Thanks, Brad. It sounds very easy to roll out Workspot. Appreciate that detail. Final question back to you, David. They're asking if you have any recommendations for best practices around VDI.
Really, when it comes down to it, there's no specific best practices for either Zen Desktop or Horizon. It just tends to come in that our array can actually handle more than some of the default settings. So we recommend actually increasing some of the minimums or the preset configurations to raise them a little bit higher. And all of those are documented in our VMware platform guide, which I shared earlier.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have in our live Q&A session here. Now let's move on to our prize announcement. All right, excellent questions. So many excellent questions. In fact, we don't have time to get to all of them here on the live Gorilla Guide webisode. I'm routing these over to the Pure Storage and Workspot teams to respond to your questions electronically. We do appreciate them all, and we got to as many as we had time for. We try to keep these webisodes short, succinct events, fun Friday events. Hopefully you learned a lot on the event today. Before we go, I want to award the 3 Amazon $100 gift cards. These are going out to Tara Jeffers from Maryland, Ryan Wright from California, and Hans Abrahamson from Oklahoma. Congratulations to all 3 winners. We will reach out to you via email next week to deliver your gift cards. Best of luck to everyone on future drawings. I hope that you'll join us on future events. After this event, in fact, you'll be automatically redirected to the Gorilla Guide landing page where you can download free educational IT books over at gorilla.guide. I hope that you'll also follow Actual Tech Media on LinkedIn for all of our latest and greatest announcements around enterprise tech. Thank you, of course, to Workspot and Pure Storage for joining us on the Gorilla Guide webisode to enabling VDI, Desktop as a Service, and EUC environments today. And of course, big thank you to you out there in the audience. I hope that you learned a lot, and have a great weekend. See you next time. Bye-bye.